Three. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the NEA Wednesday webinar. I'm Dr. Zalanya Allen, and today I am here with an amazing new guest. Her name is Dr. Geneva Williams. Hello, how are you?
How you doing, Dr. Zalanya? Good to see you. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited.
I'm good, and I'm excited as well because I know we're going to have an amazing, dynamic conversation on one of my favorite topics. But first, let the people know who you are. So, Dr. Geneva Williams is an award-winning transformational leader and founder of Dr. Geneva Speaks LLC. Dr. Geneva is a world-class woman-centered coach and influencer. Through her thriving consultancy and digital brand, she helps individuals and organizations embrace reinvention with purpose and profitability using her innovative strategies and signature What's Next framework. A proud alum of Morgan State University, she holds a master's from Bryn Mawr and a doctorate from Wayne State University. Dr. Geneva was the first female president and CEO of the multi-million-dollar United Way in the Detroit metro area. She has raised over $100 million for businesses and community causes and launched over 50 public-private collaborations and startups. She is recognized as one of Detroit's most influential women by Crain's Business. As chair of the Governor's Michigan Women's Commission, she led numerous initiatives benefiting women in the state of Michigan. Wow, that's quite a background.
Well, thank you. The thing that's most important in all of that is I got five grandchildren.
Yes, that's
Yes.
quite an accomplishment as
That's what
well.
makes, life worth living.
And that's why you look so young.
Thank
They
you.
keep you young.
Oh, yeah, they do. Uh-huh.
So, yeah, give us a little bit more about your background. Specifically, how did you get into public speaking? Because today we're going to be talking all about fearless confidence, which
Mm.
is so important for women and women entrepreneurs, but everyone really. And then
Mhm.
you're going to give us tips on how to give more powerful and impactful presentations and pitches. But first, I'd like to know just how you got started in speaking and presenting, and if you've ever had a fear.
Well, let me start with that point first. Yes, uh-huh. In fact, I still do get nervous butterflies, they call them. And I reframe it to say, oh, I'm excited. But I think we all do because, speaking anxiety is a real phobia. In fact, I think it's probably one of the most common phobias, fears around. And so lots of folk have fear of public speaking. My first opportunity to get scared about public speaking was when I was in high school. I was selected to give the high school graduation speech. And this was really something for our town because we had just gone through desegregation and we were being bused, and there were just a handful of us as blacks. And so, even as a young kid, I felt the weight of, the only black to get up and make this speech. And of course, I represented my whole race, in doing that. And, as a young girl, 17, that's some heavy weight. I don't even know how I made it up the stage to the podium. But Zelanya, I was maybe 3 or 4 minutes into my speech, and this is a huge auditorium, Ocean Grove Auditorium. And there's lots and lots of people out there. Many of them didn't look like me or my family. And 3 minutes in, the lights went out. The whole auditorium was completely dark. And here I am, 17, giving this speech, sitting, standing up there, didn't know, what I was doing. And the lights go off. So what I ended up doing was I just kept on speaking. I didn't know anything
In
else
the
to do.
dark?
In the dark, I kept speaking and kept talking. And a few minutes later, of course, it seemed like an eternity. It seemed like probably 5 hours later, the lights came back on. And there was a burst of applause, and people were cheering and everything. And I didn't know if it was because the lights came on, but later on, people kept coming up to me and saying, wow, you went ahead and did it. You didn't let the lights stop you, and all of that. And I remember that day vividly. And it really was probably my first experience with speaking in front of others. And I learned a big, big lesson about how we need to get over the fear of speaking, but really what it's about, if we do make a mistake, it ain't the end of the world either.
Wow, that's an amazing point. It's not the end of the world, but you don't find that out until you actually get out there and do it. But some
Absolutely.
people let that fear prevent them from
Mhm.
getting out there and doing it. So we're going to talk about some techniques to deal with that fear. But first, I want you to establish, why is it important for an entrepreneur to be able to present well?
Well, as entrepreneurs, we're in the business of making money. And to make money, most of us in our business, we have to interact with people. We have to interact with others. And so being able to communicate clearly, being able to talk about your business, all of those things lead to opportunities and lead to better business. So it's really a better business practice. And that's why it's important. And, Zelanya, many of us as entrepreneurs, we really need funding at one point or another, which means we've got to be able to talk to investors and people who have the dollars that can support what it is we do. So we've got to be able to talk about our businesses anytime, anywhere, any place. And as
Absolutely.
entrepreneurs, hey, that's something we have to do.
Absolutely. And we are our best advocates. And if we can't
Absolutely.
do that confidently, we can't expect others to believe in what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to establish too that the presentation or the pitch is not just before an audience, but it could be an individual, it could be
Mm-hmm.
a small group in a meeting, or
Mm-hmm.
it could be a large group in an auditorium. Do
Mm-hmm.
you find that each of those requires a different skill set, or are you relying on the same skill set for all three?
Well, I think it's very interesting that you asked that particular question because one of the things that we know about speaking and being able to speak is you really need to be authentic because
Mhm.
people can see instantly, particularly now in these days of high tech, we can see instantly whether or not you're being real and authentic. So, my belief is that you first discover and make sure that you understand your own self, that what I call rooted authority. And that's part of what I use as this 3R framework for just keeping my cool when I'm speaking, being able to communicate clearly. And one of those R's is rooted authority, which means that you know all the strengths and everything that you have proof points. And those proof points are so important. They're your story, they're the facts about you. And when you know them and you speak from them, that brings forth all your authenticity. And so you need to have that authenticity wherever you are yourself. However, let me say this, another point that I think is so important, Zelanya, is being able to assess the various situations you're in and speak accordingly. So, not every meeting that you have is high drama, high stakes. So that there's some meetings that are very important, like if you went to make a pitch or an investor, that's a high stake kind of conversation you want to have. But then there's sometimes when you're just going out networking or meeting someone for coffee, and that's not as high a stake in terms of your conversation. So it's important to be able to understand the situation you're speaking in, whether it's a high stake or low stake or something in between, but to channel your energy into that. Because sometimes we get so nervous and have
Yeah.
high anxiety and we just go into a networking meeting.
Yeah, that's a great point, though, because a pitch competition is nerve-wracking because you know you're being judged.
Right.
But a networking event should be a little more relaxed, laid back, because maybe you're being judged, maybe you're not, but who cares? You know,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think that should
Hmm.
kind of be the mindset.
Right.
But I love this framework that you have, the three R's and
Hmm.
being authentic. So these three R's, will they help address the fear that people feel when they present?
Oh, absolutely. So we've talked about a couple, but one is the rooted authority, and the other is the real-time stakes that I was just talking about, and the final one is real-time recovery. And so we don't talk a lot about recovery when we're actually in the moment. You hear about, well, after you give a speech or after you do something, you go home and you reflect and you think back about what you did and how it came off. But a lot of times, while you're giving a speech or a presentation or even a pitch, something happened. Like with me, as I was talking about, I was giving a speech and the lights went out. And the
Yeah.
thing is that, particularly for us as entrepreneurs, we need to be able to recover in the moment
Mm,
and then move forward. Because that does a couple things, Zelanya. Not only does it keeps us focused and on track, but people observe how you handled the situation.
yeah.
And if, your PowerPoint goes out or you drop all your notes or something goes different than what you expected while you're giving a presentation or a pitch or you're talking to customers, recovering, taking a deep breath, recognizing what it is that what's the purpose of why you're here in the room, and laughing at yourself or what have you, but recovering shows so much about you and your character and your ability to show leadership in various situations. We don't talk a lot about that. So that's why, particularly because of what happened to me as a young girl, that recovery and the ability to move and adjust in various situations is part of that framework that I talk about.
Yes, I like that. So be prepared for in case something goes wrong and
Mhm.
just remember to
Mhm.
push through. It reminds me of Beyonce, and she fell on stage one day
Mhm.
and she pretended like it was planned, like she started dancing on her
Part of the
back.
act. That's right.
So yeah,
And
just
what did
be,
people say? What was your reaction when you saw that?
I think it took the weight from it because she was smiling, laughing, having a good
Mhm.
time, kept
Mhm.
dancing, popped back up. So
Mhm.
And I find the audience is going to take their cues from you.
Exactly.
So if you're
Exactly.
having a good time with it or you're acting like no big deal, I
Hmm.
think that's how your audience will perceive it as well.
Hmm. Hmm. I've been on stage and had a hand mic and it slipped out of my hand. Um, and so I'll make a joke and say, well, I certainly dropped the mic, didn't I? Or, something. And people will laugh and, you how you laugh at yourself. And I've been giving presentations and it'll be like for a huge audience. And so I'll have a script, a presentation. And as I'm going through in my head, I'm saying, this ain't the right script. I uploaded the wrong script. This
Oh
was an
my
earlier
gosh.
version. I've had that too. And so I started, I remember the time I looked at it and I kept going. I was saying, my head was saying, this is the wrong script, girl. And I just started laughing to myself. And I knew there was a story that I was going to tell. So I just kind of stopped and moved away from the podium and told that story and just did everything else from memory off the cuff. I just had to because I knew that the presentation I had wasn't going to work. But
Yes.
the point is whatever it is, whether it's picking up a mic or the lights going out or the wrong script, the point is it's not the end of the world, one. And two, recover from it. It's
Yeah.
okay. Take a deep breath. Remember why you're there, what it is, what the purpose is, what you're trying to do, pitch for money, help your customers, whatever it is, and then move forward.
That's great. Can you just share some techniques that people can use to increase their self-esteem in general so that when they have to do a presentation, they just feel better about it? Like, what can people do overall to increase self-esteem?
Mhm. Well, my framework that talks about rooted authority, what that says is that confidence doesn't come from over preparing and
Mm.
overthinking what it is you're doing. It really comes from remembering who you are. And I think as entrepreneurs, we have such a natural ability to do that because we're in business to solve a problem. And so we saw a problem that needed fixing, and we decided we could do it. And many of us, all of us, have a story about why we got into business. So, with the story, that, authority story, if you will, and with the remembering and owning who we are, those authority facts, this roots our authority and our ability, and it helps us feel better. So, in other words, if you know that you're a fabulous um, storyteller, or you can communicate very well, or you're the best accountant everywhere, you can make numbers simple and make them work. Those are strengths that you have, skills that you have. Know them
Mm.
and own them. And that roots you in what you do in your authority. They're proof points. You also
Yeah.
know your story, why you got into business. Those are great stories and they make you unique because there's nobody else who has your story but you. When you combine those two things, the facts and your story, you begin to own who you are and you feel good about it. And you can walk into any pitch, presentation, conversation with customers with your proof points. And I think it's the proof points that help us with our confidence. Okay. And
That's awesome.
and also, Zelanya, confidence comes from doing. You got to do it and practice it. And the more you do it and practice it, the more confident you are. And confidence also isn't static. It doesn't come once to you. You got it and you have it for forever. It comes and goes and ebbs and flows depending on the circumstance. I used to tell people when I came to Detroit, I knew I was a fabulous cook because my husband told me something. He used to run to the table. I could cook up a storm, his favorite dishes, the whole thing. And then one day he told me my mother-in-law was coming over for dinner. That confidence I had, zoom. I lost my confidence in doing that, just in that, but it was situational. I didn't think that I could cook as good as I used to cook because his mother was coming over. And I knew what that was going to be. My point is that we're not always 100% confident in every situation. And we need to practice for situations and we need to carry things into situations. And I'm a big believer of carrying your proof points, those things that say, yeah, I'm a bad somebody. Yeah, I've raised this money. I started this company. I'm making six figures. I'm doing this. Yeah, I can come in and do this pitch. And I got a great story. And I'm going to tell my story. And you know what, Solania, when we tell our stories, um, it's confidence right there. Just telling your story.
Absolutely. So, yeah, you said a lot there, but I love all of it. And I think that is so powerful, remembering who you are, because I think we don't give ourselves enough credit sometimes
Right.
for all of the things that we've achieved and all of the obstacles and triumphs and tribulations and things that we've gone through and we came out on the other side.
That's right.
So, what I've done personally is I wrote out a list of the biggest accomplishments that I'm proud of,
I love
and
it.
I framed them and put them on my dresser so
Yes,
that I can see them regularly. And to your point, remember who I am. And then
absolutely.
the other great point you made that I like is the really the repetition of just getting out there, doing it and doing it over and over
Hmm.
until your brain is like, oh, I can do this. I've done this many times before.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So, well, we need to
Absolutely.
start to wrap here, but I'm thinking about what if you do a pitch and it doesn't turn out right? Like for you, all the lights went out, but you kept
Hmm.
going.
Hmm.
For someone else, maybe the lights go out, the water falls over, the microphone goes off, and you're like, whoa, I'm
Hmm.
never doing that again. What would you say to that person to help them, get back out there? Yeah, it wasn't so great that first time, but try it again.
Well, we're talking to entrepreneurs. And, that happens every day, doesn't it? I know it does for me as an entrepreneur. I'll be getting up every day sometimes and be saying, my goodness, can I continue with this? Every single day. So, but we keep going on. And we have that resilience. That's part of being an entrepreneur. It comes with the
Yes.
territory. So if you can get up every day and continue to do your business, continue to solve the problems that you started your business for, continue to provide excellent service, figuring out ways to do it better, then you can find ways to practice and to keep speaking, even when things didn't turn out the way you wanted it to be. Okay.
Wow.
And so, take that entrepreneurial spirit the same way that you can overcome those challenges as an entrepreneur, you can do the same thing with speaking and perfecting your pitch and practicing. So if you do a pitch, Zelanya, and it didn't turn out right, the first thing I would do is sign up for the next time.
Wow.
Mhm.
And that takes
And challenge
courage.
yourself because that's why you're an entrepreneur.
Hmm. So you have to have courage. So I'd like to wrap up here by having you tell us a little bit about the wonderful work that you do. I know you're a transformational leader, you do coaching. What do you coach around? Is that just with women, entrepreneurs? Could you just talk a little bit about your work?
Well, I work with leaders, and leaders, I believe, make the difference in what will happen in this world, whether, we're talking about leaders in life and work or in community. And I especially work with women leaders and those leaders who are over 50, who are heading those organizations, running those small businesses, nonprofit leaders, community leaders, executives. And I work with women over 50 because, society tells us that when you hit 50, it's downhill all from there. I don't believe that. I challenge that. I started my business in my late 60s. And people would tell me, well, why don't you go somewhere and sit down? Isn't it time for you to retire? But it was a lifelong dream for me, Zelanya, after having run nonprofits, led nonprofits, raised millions of dollars, established all these partnerships. I still felt I wasn't done yet, and I wanted more. And what I wanted was my own platform. So my late 60s, I decided to do it. Couple months after I hung up my shingle, my husband got his first diagnosis of cancer. He ended up passing at the same time as my parents. And those transitions, those life transitions happen, life happens. And that's why I like to work with women who are in that midlife stage, who go through these transitions. That's what happens when we're in midlife, to help them figure out their next steps and what to do and how to navigate the midlife transitions that we go through. And we're still expected to lead, to raise our families, and to look good all at the same time. Well, how do we do that? So I help by coaching. I also consult with nonprofit organizations that are looking to grow because I've been in nonprofits for so many years. And so that's the kind of work that I'm doing now, and that, I'm having the best time of my life in this season of my life. And we all can because we want to live long, right? We want to live long
Absolutely.
lives. And hey, let's live them vibrantly. And so I help leaders live a vibrant life.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. So if someone's watching and they want to get in touch with you, what's your website?
drgenevaspeaks.com, and but you can find me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's my favorite platform, but I'm also on YouTube and all other social media platforms at Dr. Geneva Speaks.
Wonderful. So that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us for this Wednesday webinar. Lots of gems and insights for our entrepreneurs to become more powerful and impactful presenters. So I'd love for you to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.